Coming up on today's episode, Starship SN3 is getting stacked, some Model Y news, and Starlink is getting a little bit dimmer, and that's a good thing. Let's get ludicrous. Hey there, and welcome to Our Ludicrous Future. This is the podcast where we talk about all the cool future stuff that's happening today that's going to make tomorrow virus-free. I'm Joe Scott with the Answers with Joe YouTube channel. With me is Tim and Dodd.
Oh, hi, it's me, Tim Dodd. What?
I'm sorry I set you up for that.
Yeah, you did. Everyday astronaut in a more, less temporary-ish space for now. Just kind of a...
Okay,
yeah, look at me. And with us, of course, is Ben Solons.
What's up, guys? It's Ben Solons with Teslanomics in a very temporary...
In a chair factory?
Temperament. Okay, so my wife has this thing with chairs. Yeah, so she has I don't know what you call that, like an obsession with chairs. We actually have this vision of opening a store called La Silla, and it's just a chair store. Like, you just come in, and that's all it is. You can buy, like, really boutique, but super dope chairs.
What if you can't buy them? What if the store is just you pay to look at and sit on chairs?
It's like a membership site. You just like, it's $10,000 a month, and you can just come in for 10 minutes and sit in a chair.
There's no Wi-Fi, there's no coffee, there's no amenities. You just sit and go.
Yeah. Yes. See, this is...
And the chairs are all... The chairs are 6 feet apart from each other.
Or if you're in Europe, 3 feet apparently, because it's only 3 feet over there, or 1 meter. I don't know. What is that exactly 3 feet, or is it like
3.3? Yeah,
something
or whatever. I think it's 3.3.
Yeah. So I'm in my old studio. Actually, this is where Teslanomics was born, which has become Jenny's photography studio. But it sounds like this is going to be my new home for good.
You're moving back in?
Are you going to get like a backdrop set up or anything? Or?
So the plan is, where I'm at here, this is like where the editing station is and office type stuff. And if I tried to move the whole filming apparatus in here, as you can kind of see the light and stuff in the background, it would just be completely filled. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is make this the editing and office area, and then have in the garage do a whole kind of filming setup.
Cool.
Because it's nice. The garage is further from the road, so there's less noise. Yeah. It's just kind of more isolated, that kind of a thing. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
Things are changing, man. What about you guys? So, Tim, this is like you're doing well. It looks like
doing well. Well, thank you.
Well, just seeing you 2 weeks in a row here is like, well, this is encouraging. I'm liking this quarantine life that we're living right now.
Well, yeah, it's kind of changed my plans. I was looking at places in Florida, as you guys know, and I'm kind of stuck now between spots, between Iowa and Florida. I'm still in Iowa, obviously, but like this is kind of a temporary space for me, but I kind of made it, I dug in a little bit more since it's going to be at least a month or two, here. So I'm like, why not kind of dig in a little bit? So yeah, I'm happy to just kind of settle a little bit and not just be constantly on the road, and kind of that in between is really hard. I feel like that's our whole world right now is stuck in this, like, they're stuck in me mode, which is like you have to wait until something happens to get to your next step, as opposed to like, hey, a date. If you have a date, like, hey, March 10th, you can do a thing. Yeah. It's really easy because you can just, that. But what's really hard is like my scheduling is always like after this rocket launch, then a thing, and that rocket launch moves. So like I had the opposite problem as a wedding photographer. It was like a year and a half in advance. This date, I can't do anything. If the freaking, Marine One lands and says, Tim, get in, we're going to take you to a UFO or something, like I couldn't do it because I already had a plan. But now it's like the exact opposite. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing next week normally. It's like after this thing, then I can do a thing or whatever. So it's... Now the whole world's on that. And that in-betweenness is really, really difficult sometimes.
Let me ask you, so did they have to issue a quarantine stay-at-home thing in Iowa, or was it just like, that's normal life anyways, because you're always at least 1 or 2 cornfields away from each other, right?
I mean, yeah, everyone has their own land with, about 10 hectares, so it's not a big deal. No, I mean, they still haven't issued anything in my state, in Iowa. There's restaurant shutdowns and things like that, but there's no mandatory, shelter in place. And people around here really don't. Iowa, like, we seem to follow trends about 3 years late, so we'll probably get the memo that you're supposed to totally, like, for real stay at home, like, 3 years from now. Because, like, remember, like, cupcake fads, like, on the coasts were a really big thing for a while, and then all of a sudden cupcakes became a thing here, like, way later. Like, escape rooms were, like, a big thing, then they came here 2 years later. Now it's, like, axe throwing is, like, a huge thing.
Yeah.
And, like, donuts. Like, all these things that, like... we're always about a year or two late, so I think we'll figure out what this is in like a couple
years from now. They're like, "Hey, wait a minute, stay home." You're like, "Why?" You're like, "I don't know. They were just doing it in California."
Exactly. But what about you, Joe? But I think Joe and I are pretty used to hanging out at a home space, right?
I feel like this affects me a lot less than you because you travel so much. You've always been all over the place, whereas I'm pretty much here all the time. To be honest, I'm living my best life, guys. I mean, no. So for real though, I was. This is my set. It is also a bedroom in my home that has become my office, and I was noticing like a lot of the channels that I follow that are like bigger channels and clearly work in studios and have big teams and stuff. I got teams, but we've always been remote, but I've noticed a lot of them are now like shooting in their homes, and it's like really low quality video and everything, and I'm kind of like, mine hasn't changed at all.
Yeah.
I was like, I might actually benefit from this a little bit. I don't know, like my videos are going to look perfectly normal for a while.
Yeah. But
now, what's the situation in Tejas, though? Or have they put any kind of... I know generally
we're still
it's
saying
like,
Texas instead of Tejas, but other than that...
I know generally speaking, when Ted Cruz does something, everyone follows because he's such a great leader and everyone loves him there. So I know he self-quarantined a while ago, but like, is there any official word on anything? I mean...
is it Dan Patrick? Is that his name? Or is he an ESPN guy? Our lieutenant governor basically, I don't remember what channel he was on, but he was basically like, we need to get the economy going again, and old people are just going to have to be, willing to sacrifice for that. And everybody was like, so you're saying old people should die? Is that what you're saying?
I heard
because he's not a spring chicken himself, I
heard
but
that. That was very unfortunate.
Dallas has a shelter-in-place order. I think that started officially at the beginning of this week, but I was kind of already doing all that anyway. I mean, it's bizarro world, So I actually have never. My wife doesn't let me go grocery shopping with her because I slow her down. But she went yesterday, and it was like they had police officers at the door rationing people going in.
Yeah.
Like they would only allow a certain number of people in at the same time, and like at every counter there were tape on the floor where you had to stand so far back and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's way more serious than it's being taken out here, surprisingly.
Really? Well,
I mean, I think different places. So like Costco is a zoo and wild, but like my neighbors just went the other day. And they said it was fine. Like they're only letting like 50 people in at a time or something. Mm-hmm. Costco's massive, so 50 people is not much. But other than that, he said it wasn't too bad. We go to kind of a smaller grocery store, which has been really nice because the smaller, like local, not big chain grocery stores, they have really good relationships with their vendors. So these vendors, they supply them stuff, right? So we go there and it's like really well stocked of fruits and vegetables and like really good stuff. It's missing like, milk and eggs and some of the other items that are kind of more come from bigger distributors. But going in there, they have like, there's none of that. There's not like limiting who can get in or anything. They just have like hand sanitizer everywhere and everyone's kind of looking at each other weird. But it's pretty casual, honestly. Yeah.
Did someone cough? Rod!
Dude, someone sneezed when I was in there. And I was like, oh crap, let's go. And I was like, like everyone started running.
Suddenly a riot, people getting trampled at the door.
You're just grabbing like anything off the shelf. You don't even know what it is. Later you're like, grapefruit chips. What the hell? Like,
grapefruit chips. Good one. I was looking for something there. That was good.
But when you were talking about it being everything being so uncertain right now, I mean, that is a source of stress. That's like immediate anxiety when you just don't know what's going to happen next. But there was, I guess you could call it a meme, but there was a tweet by Laura Ingraham that was kind of like, we need to have an end date on this. This is unsustainable or something. And somebody followed up and was like, did Laura Ingraham just Karen COVID-19? Like, did she just ask to talk to COVID's manager?
Yeah, I saw something else that was basically like, you can't put a date on this. Like, we're not in control of this. It's in control of us, and it's just a matter of like waiting until till we take care of it and flush it out of our collective system. Unfortunately, it's not a very fun thing to do. But the one thing that I find unique is that like literally everyone around the world right now is kind of experiencing something together, and as like terrible as it is, like there's a certain like human element to that, or like a certain bonding. Like we can all, understand that together. I don't know. That's interesting. At least that part of it's unique.
It's like a 9/11 happening to everyone in slow motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually, in Monday's video, I made the point. Well, I tried to make the point that the last time that I can think of that something just completely sucked all the air out of the room to where it was like you just can't not talk about it. Like there's just, the last time something like that happened in my memory was 9/11. So I was like, this is kind of like a 9/11 level event.
It's like 9/11 times 2,356.
Kind of.
Nobody knows what that is.
A lot of the responses that I got, there are some people that were like, this is way bigger than 9/11. And I was like, well, okay, fair enough. But I mean, in terms of numbers of death already. But then there were a lot of people from outside the United States that were like, oh, this is such an American-centric, whatever. And I'm like, guys, I'm just giving you my personal experience. That's all I'm saying. I'm not
speaking for you. I'm telling you the last time that it affected me. Like,
Well, do you guys remember SARS in was it like 2002 or something? It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
2003. I remember it just being kind of a joke. I was working at MCI, the phone company at the time, in one of my first jobs in kind of data. And I just remember like a friend of mine who was Filipino got a big red shirt with really tiny lettering that said, if you can read this, you now have SARS. And it was just kind of like, it didn't really, I don't know, like it didn't, there wasn't really an outbreak that spread worldwide like this. So I was trying to think like, how does it compare to that? It's like, it just doesn't. It's not even in the same ballpark,
Well, so I released this morning, so we're recording this on Thursday, the full interview that I did with the author, David Quammen, that I used the clips from on Monday's video. And one of the things that he was saying about that, he said, we stopped SARS, but we also got kind of lucky because SARS, its death rate was much higher than this one. And MERS was even higher. It was like 34%. So,
but wasn't that one of the positives as to why it didn't spread as much is because it just killed people? Like before you
I don't know for sure on that one. So like, I mean, the deal with this one, as we all know, is that you can carry it and not even know it and be spreading it, for a long time. I don't know if that was true of SARS or not, but I know that that's one of the problems with I guess the better things about Ebola is that it kills people so fast that it doesn't have a chance to spread.
Right.
Like you aren't carrying it long enough to spread it to other people,
Right.
So it's like little,
you become ill
all these
very
little
quickly.
factors like that.
You become ill very quickly and very violently, right? Like you basically,
Yeah.
That's
so
the
like
R number, right? The R1 or R0 or R2
yeah, it's
or
called
something.
R naught. I was actually saying it wrong in that video.
Oh, okay.
It's called the R naught.
You are not.
I know. So now something I wanted to put in that video, and I think would still be an interesting, I don't know, mental exercise or whatever, would be like, what would the virus that wipes out humanity look like? Something that has 100% death rate, but you could still carry it for long enough to spread it to other people and has a high R naught value. Like the measles is like 12 to 16. Like every person that has the measles can infect 12 to 16 people.
Well, and this is why, I don't know if you mentioned in your video, but because there was a case of the measles in San Diego not too long ago. Of course, because it's California and people don't vaccinate.
Right.
But the deal is people were really worried about anyone else in the hospital getting it. But it turns out these hospitals, I don't know if this is universally true, but the one that this case happened at, the rooms where they treat people, the HVAC systems are isolated. So like the air isn't being circulated to other parts of the hospital.
Good.
And that's when you go, oh, there was a smart person that thought of this. Yay.
Wow.
There was somebody that gave some thought to that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nutty times. I don't want to linger on this stuff too much because I think it's all anyone's talking about, But yeah,
Last one thing, is there any
Yeah.
positive for you guys out of this whole situation?
I've been checking up with a lot of friends a lot more lately. Like literally just calling. There's like more time. You just know you can get a hold of people now, and there's just like this weird direct connection of like I can grab a phone and call, and someone will actually answer because they're just sitting at home now. You know, that's
Yeah.
So I've been checking in with friends and family a lot more than normal, which is nice. You know.
Yeah. I almost hate to even reference this, but do you ever watch the channel Thoughty 2?
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's not 42. It's Thought. Like I have a thought. Thoughty 2. Yeah, thank you. So I've almost gotten to where I don't. Sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent. I don't watch his videos quite that much. He's become like the contrarian of YouTube. It's like whatever anybody is saying, he's going to do like the opposite of that. And it's just like you already know what he's going to say. Well, he did one that was titled "Why COVID-19 is a Good Thing." I was like, "You son of a!" But I went ahead and watched
But
it
you're
anyway.
like, yes, I'm clicking it. Right?
He wins.
I was like, I just want to be mad now, so I went ahead and watched it. But to his credit, it was actually a decent video, and it was basically talking about some of the positive outcomes that could come out of this. And he ended it by saying things like what we're talking about right there. It was like, even though we are socially distant from each other, we're connecting more than we've ever done before, and we suddenly realize the value of human connection that we kind of been taking for granted. And I was like, that's okay. I'm with you there.
Well,
For me, or go ahead, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say this might be the time where we finally start to get more and more, telecommuting or whatever you call it, I guess, or getting away from companies that might break that mold of like, you can work from home if you want to. It might become, and that might be a huge deal for energy savings, pollution and transit, and even think about like if people aren't commuting, think about how much that frees up our infrastructure.
Right.
This might be a turning point where all of a sudden companies realize the value of actually having people work from home and accept it as like, okay, our productivity is actually up in a sense, or down, or what, or
good. I'm curious about that actually. I'm wondering what will happen.
I saw someone tweet that about the pollution thing, but there was with travel and cars, that's 100% right. But the cooling of your home in the summer actually could be the opposite effect, where you're cooling your entire house for one person to be working from home. Whereas if you're in a big building, you're cooling a building with hundreds of people in it or whatever. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I have seen other people say like, oh, global temperatures are dropping, CO2 levels are dropping, and all this. And I'm just being who I am. I'm like, cool, let me go check the Scripps Research Institute and see what the data says. Nope, still going up. Okay, let me go check all these other like legit like NOAA and these people. I'm like, oh, nope, not seeing any change whatsoever. So I don't know.
Well, the cool thing
people
is
are just speculating on that.
This will be a strict data point for us to actually, when else will you see an observable
worldwide
dip in certain things that we can actually use that as a as an A/B test for certain things, because normally we can't just be like, hey guys, we got to test a theory here about CO2 and emissions. Everyone just stop driving for 3 weeks. We're gonna do some observations. We're gonna churn that data out and see what But this is an opportunity for scientists to really be able to see some shifts and stuff.
So far, the data I've seen doesn't show any signs of change whatsoever. But so
air quality.
We'll see over time.
Air quality, definitely. If you look at China
air quality,
and stuff,
probably, yeah.
Huge.
So one positive for me,
yeah.
I could just race all around town. It's great. There's no one on the road. Photographers, like I can go take pictures of Times Square with no one in it. Now, for me, a big positive has been just connecting with my family again. I guess I didn't realize how much I didn't see them. But now that my son's home from school, so we've got 2 kids here and my wife, and I'm home doing this thing, like it's actually great. I just love, like, that's why I'm gonna leave my studio and this is gonna be the permanent setup now. So I think it's mostly like, because I don't have to pay for the studio, which is nice, especially with any kind of economic uncertainty, but also just being able to see my family on a more day-to-day basis. It's actually been really good. I would still like to go to the beach and see friends and stuff, but there's been, I don't know, like for my personal little world here, it's actually been a big positive. So
yeah.
Hopefully
everyone can find a positive or something to do to take this opportunity to do some things that you wouldn't have been able to really do in your daily routine lives, and maybe it's tidying up your house, maybe it's organizing, maybe it's setting new habits or something, new health habits or something. Hopefully, this is just a time for you to be able to do something different.
So let's pause for a second and actually ask Discord, who are listening to us live. First off, thank you guys for joining us. We've got, it looks like a record number of people again.
Yeah.
Sorry, my audio is probably crackly and weird.
It's terrible for us.
you guys.
Yeah, we do have lots of people. Cool. Hey, guys.
This is the sacrifice you need to make to deal with to receive my awesome blessings here. Channeling my Joel.
Let's
Osteen.
laugh at that line.
But just quick shout out to Discord and Patreon folks for being here, because you support us and we love you for it, and thank you.
Well, so imagine if everyone's having to use the internet a lot more. We might need like a better global internet system or something to like really connect humans. What if there's
What could that be?
What if there's a thing that had like, what if someone put a bunch of satellites in the, oh wait, boom, 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 Starlink.
So we're going to talk about Starlink now.
See, I was just thinking, let's get rid of the internet. I'm still not sure it was a great idea to begin with.
It's a fad.
So check this out. So Dr. Marco, stay at home, Langbroke at Marco Langbroke on Twitter, has images that they shot of Starlink satellites. And look at this, measuring the difference, the albedo, basically the reflectivity of a couple different Starlink satellites. And you can see a noticeable difference on the dark sat, on one of the Starlinks that was considered, that I think that's known to be, have a different reflectivity coding and things. And he measured it as a significant drop, like an order of magnitude, I believe, drop in reflectivity. So you will notice it looks like the center image was underexposed. I think he does talk about that, but he still did the measure
Was
anyway.
he using the Pixel 5 night sight here? What is this?
No, he does list. It's a Canon EOS 80D, so
Oh, okay.
DSLR.
So kind of a normal.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, actually, he said he shot it through a 10-inch aperture, so an actual telescope. But yeah. So 10-second exposure, and you can see, for those of you listening, basically, there's 3 separate Starlink satellites in these images, and the middle one is the one they're calling "quote unquote" dark sat, which is one of the more experimental ones, and the reflectivity is significantly less. It's quite a bit darker, and these are the satellites getting closer or in their operational range, right? So this is what we would see, and it's a drastic difference between the 3 images.
The 2 on the side here, which look like the worst trend line in history, they're closer, and then the middle one's further away back towards its orbit, or it's a different kind of satellite altogether?
No, they're all Starlink satellites, and they're all, I believe, in their final orbits or near their final orbits. So they're similar distances, but one of them has the reflectivity coding, is my understanding of this.
So we need to send people up there to go paint the other ones?
Well,
they'll come down eventually.
Yeah, the lifespan of these satellites likely won't be more than 5 years at most, and there's only a small handful, well, still hundreds, I guess, with the brighter reflectivity.
There's small hundreds of handfuls,
but it's still not that much. So someone asked about the magnitude, which is the level of brightness, and Dr. Marco replied with, the altitude is about +5 to +4.5 for the regular Starlinks, in the same orbital plane and orbital altitude as DarkSat, and about 2 magnitudes fainter, so 6 to 6.5. And let me pull up the apparent magnitude scale here real quick. So visible to the naked human eye, of course I'm going to say the word naked, would be so
naked.
So, for instance, the brightest star in the sky, Sirius, is an apparent magnitude of -1. So, I believe the sun is like -0.6 or something, or -27, something really, really bright. The sun's, and it goes, sun's -26.7. The faintest star is -1.4, or the brightest star is -1.46. Venus can be -4.2. That gives you a sense of some of the brightnesses in the sky. And then at 0, it switches and goes, that's brightness relative to Vega. For some reason, Vega is just our gauge here. I don't know. And then from there on, it decreases. So going from like a order of magnitude from 0 would be 100% as bright as Vega to an apparent magnitude of 1 would be 40%. And then from there, apparent magnitude.
Vega is a star.
Yep. Yeah.
Not the Street Fighter character. Got it.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
So going from a apparent magnitude of about 4 to apparent magnitude of 6 is a significant drop in actual brightness. So that'd be from 2.5% as bright as Vega to about 0.4. So yeah, so that's good. And yeah, it'd still be nice. So that would still be slightly visible to the human eye, most likely, or you'd likely be able to pick it up under the right circumstances. But it's cool that, that we can see that.
Well, and there's more Starlink news related to this, right? Are you getting to that?
I don't know about the more Starlink news, but I did want to show one more thing. Ralph Vanderberg on Twitter has an awesome actual close-up. Oh, this is the one where it's shot with, I think, a 10-inch scope. Shot this, 10-inch aperture. So there we go. Sorry, Dr. Langbrook, I think I got these confused. I think shot this just with a at f2.5 50 millimeter, so a standard like DSLR lens.
Canon 80D.
Yep.
The
So
Nifty
this
50.
was Ralph shot this with a 10-inch aperture scope and got an actual, like, you can actually see Starlink, which is really cool. So you're seeing the biggest, most reflective part is the solar panel, and the satellite bus is this lower part. And SpaceX has talked about using a solar shade to actually kind of block, almost like an awning, or put like a hood on it, so that it's still, the solar panel can face the sun, but then they can put the shade on it, and it will help reduce reflectivity back on Earth. That's something that they're looking into, as they're most likely going to be the way that they really, really, truly reduce and basically negate reflectivity of it. So
yeah, I was wondering. Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, because I was always wondering. I knew that most of the area of the satellite was the solar panel, and I was like, well, how are you going to reduce the reflectivity of a solar panel when it needs to get the sunlight? You know?
Yeah. It sounds like the solar shade might be an option. And
so what did they do on that dark side? Do you have any idea?
That, I think, is just a coating mostly on the solar panel itself, and the satellite bus. Probably some kind of, you've all seen solar panels, and even look at solar roof, the Tesla glass and stuff like that. Solar roof, how
Roof.
Sorry, roof. I'm Midwestern.
That's a very Iowa way of saying
that. Is a solar roof. Anyway, the how some of those are a more matte finish, and there's things you can do too, like Apple has like nano coatings on some of their screens that really, really reduce reflectivity a lot. And I'm guessing that's going to be some of the things that they employ to reduce reflectivity, but still bring in the amount of light. Is just a matter. It's like really cool science, and I'm sure we'll end up seeing some more, some progress in that sense before they, as SpaceX tends to do, just basically make improvements, fly it, put it up there, see how it works, and then make more improvements. Just keep doing that. So we'll likely see a continual decrease in reflectivity and brightness on upcoming Starlink. Oh yeah.
Good.
Thanks for reminding us.
This was the bit that I was wondering about, because I saw this news recently. So SpaceX for Starlink, they applied for their license to get approval to do this in 2019 in February, and they just got it.
Yep.
So they are now allowed to deploy up to 1 million user terminals in the United States for satellite broadband, Starlink satellite broadband consumption.
Yeah, baby.
And service is expected to be available in parts of the United States this year. So that to me is where I was like, oh, because my big question has always been, yeah, this is all cool, but when can I have it?
Right.
It's all just academic until I can actually get this. So.
Yep. And I don't know if you guys, I don't think I was talking about this, but it was probably 2 weeks ago now. Elon was, I think it was the panel maybe for the Air Force. He did a speech, or Space Force, one of the, I don't remember exactly what, I think it was Air Force. And he talked about the Starlink basically is, UFO on a stick. And it has, I think it has an actual, an auto leveling and auto pointing actuator that makes it so it points in the right place. And then it stays stationary, is my understanding of these user terminal. But basically he says here's the steps that are going to be included with it. Plug it in, point it at the sky, any order.
Connect your
Yeah.
connect your internet. Connect your modem or whatever.
Connect to it. Yeah, like literally plug it in, make sure it's pointing at the sky, and that's about it. So that'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, but you still have to wire it into your house and just connect it to a router or something.
Just Cat 5. I mean, yeah, but still, that's pretty awesome. Just power it up.
It's going to be enough for me to screw up, is all I'm saying. I know me pretty well.
But I think that's awesome. I mean, yeah, we're actually seeing, like, it's kind of starting to roll out, and, you know, we're seeing some actual information coming out that's really exciting.
So are you guys going to get it? Try it? I mean, well, Tim kind of, obviously, but Joe?
I mean, I hadn't made plans to, but I mean, once it gets up and running, I'll be definitely curious about it, you know?
What's your internet like there at your house now, Joe?
I do fiber. I mean, it's through AT&T, but it's the Giga.
But it's
Giga thing.
Okay. So you've got really
if
good
Starlink
internet.
is faster.
Well, I think that's the question. I don't think it will be faster than local fiber.
At first, no, but eventually, I mean, it will have gigabit throughput or capability, you know, and the biggest thing is latency will never be quite as good as a full-blown hardwired. You know, we can. But it should be low enough to game, so probably, you know, for sure below 100 milliseconds of latency. But yeah, I think the throughput eventually will be, the actual full bandwidth will be, you know,
well,
gigabit
and I
capable.
think if they can do it for, like, let's say right now you have, I have gigabit fiber from my local ISP, and it's $150 a month, but holy hell, is it good? And Starlink comes out and says, yeah, we've got, 800. Not a gigabit, and it's maybe the latency is maybe 20% worse, but it's $15 a month.
Dude.
I think a lot of people go, because most people don't really use much internet to be honest, like at their house.
Right.
Streaming a high definition movie is requires like 7 megabits per second or something. So unless you have like 30 people in your house doing that, you're really never going to use all that bandwidth anyways. So I'd be really curious if they're able to come out with you can compete in business in 3 ways, like speed, quality, or price. And so what is this going to be? Speed, it's going to be competitive, but it won't be the best compared to like a 10 gig fiber channel or something. Quality, okay, it'll be good, hopefully. Price is probably where they could Jeff Bezos it and be like, yeah, we're just going to undercut everybody until everyone else goes out of business,
Well, but for say somebody like you, Tim, who travels a lot, I mean, you wouldn't have to ever worry about where you're going has internet or have to use, you would just carry this thing with you and set it up and you got it wherever
only
you
thing
go.
is, like, imagine if you're in a hotel on the 2nd floor out of a 10-story building. Like, I don't know how you'd, a lot of those windows don't even open anymore, stuff like that. Like, that's
just
the other thing.
Put it outside on top of your car or something.
That's the one thing I don't know about yet. But for sure, like, for when I'm doing live streams at rocket launches and stuff, oh my God.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
that will be, and for people doing like nowadays down at Boca, holy cow. The only problem is those lower latitudes like that will be a little bit later. Right now, like the northern states and Canada, things like that will be, because of the way that the orbits cross up there, there's more coverage currently. So the higher altitude or higher latitudes will be a little bit better coverage sooner than the lower. So it'll be a little while, I think, before there's genuinely good coverage in California, Texas, Florida. But I think by the end of this year, like even Iowa is probably going to start being in that sweet spot. So I would love to be testing that out and be using it, ASAP basically would be awesome.
So if you're a hardcore fan, move to the North Pole, people.
Not the North Pole, because
don't need to worry about isolation up there. Telling you,
true.
You're good.
It's true. You're self-isolated automatically.
Yeah.
But that's the cool thing is it has. I think the biggest thing is it can really disrupt the underserved is the biggest thing. Yeah, it might disrupt in some places where like my friend in Seattle only has one option for internet and it's horrible. It's one of the 2 big companies, I don't remember which one, and they just price gouge, and it's like, he's paying $100 a month for like 20 down or something stupid, just horrible.
Yeah.
And it's horribly unreliable. He has to reset his router like every 5 days or whatever, and it's just this old junky router. And that's his only option. He literally has no other options besides like doing a MiFi spot or something.
I mean, and the point of that, I think that you're touching on is not necessarily whether or not it is, going to be work for him, but it's introducing competition for a consumer product or service. So that hopefully will, I mean, even if you stay with your local company, hopefully it'll kind of kick them into gear into making it better. Even if
making
you don't
it better
go them,
or
the
cheaper.
fact that there is an option.
Yes.
Yeah.
In places where you only have one option, having another option knocking at the door is only a good thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's going to be awesome, and it's cool to see it's actually kind of working its way into being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So speaking
of options,
there we go. Yeah.
Speaking of why we should have internet radar
there
heaters.
is a yeah. Okay, whatever that was.
Thank you for acknowledging that total rear end collision there.
So first off, this is what Vega looks like. I was searching it. So if you guys don't remember Street Fighter, there's Vega.
I got those pants.
I know you do. But the Model Y is going to be equipped with a radar heater to weatherproof autopilot and self-driving. I don't know what it's going to do for cameras, though. That's an interesting question. And related to this, so the heat pump also is going to exist. So that will, I guess, help the battery stay warmer or something. Tim, talk to me about when it's cold. I don't know what life is like below 40 degrees.
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing that with snow is that it sticks to things, and obviously if it sticks to the front bumper where the actual radar is, then the radar goes bork, and all of a sudden you can't even use cruise control, because cruise control they start relying so much on the radar and things that Tesla doesn't even have a traditional cruise control where they don't just let you hold 60 because they want it to be able to do auto braking and things. So basically by having a heater, it ensures that the radar doesn't get all gunked up with snow, which is a pretty big common problem. I know Trevor Mahlman, he's had a couple times where he has had to stop on road trips and pull over and clear the snow, living in northern climates here. And I've actually never had that experience myself, but I know it's a common problem in the north. So yeah, that's a good thing.
So Elon did have a quote on this in 2018, apparently, saying that the long term, the car will work purely on vision, with radar just as a plus, but maybe worth adding a radar heater anyways. Wow. So there it is. So this isn't, unexpected. I really question this work purely on vision statement. I really, I don't know. Having redundant systems in self-driving cars seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
And so having another option besides an $8 camera to protect you from smashing into something.
Why not give the car the ability to see things that we can't?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
My biggest concern still for sure is cameras on the sides, especially those back facing on the fenders. Those tend to get blocked up, and the rear camera gets blocked up really quick in snow and salt. So those are my biggest concerns still, is how do you keep those clean? I know they had some
and how does
patents.
the car even deal with snow, right? Because snow, okay, so if it relies on vision and it's looking at the ground for, let's say, road lines, and there are none, I've driven, a couple times I've been in this condition in my life. I try to stay away from any time it's this bad, but I worked for a company based in Utah, and so we were going to retreat, whatever. And, we had an SUV, the whole team in the car, and I'm driving. And yeah, it's just completely white on the ground. There is no, I can see a guard, a concrete barrier on each side. But other than that, who the hell knows where I'm supposed to be? I'm just trying to follow the tracks of the other cars that had went before me. I mean, that seems a little bit that's going to be a challenge for cars.
I think that's actually where a car can eventually learn its place in the road outside of lines better than we can even. where it could start learning locally mailboxes, like traditionally when I drive down the street, it could eventually, I mean, this is like way in the future, but remember landmarks, trees, road, the mailboxes, things on the road that are in a normal place. So it could actually still know its exact position on the road, regardless of if the road is covered up or not, regardless of GPS signals covered up or not, just based on previous experience in the library of that local area. They could almost have these points that are in 3D space that can still guide the car exactly where it's supposed to go, regardless of the conditions, eventually.
But if you are driving in snow, though, you need to pay attention to those tracks and stuff, right? Like, you can't just drive like, oh, this is where the lane is supposed to be, but it turns out there are giant boulders of ice in there, so I'm going to drive in there anyways.
Well,
like,
the tracks are only as good as the person that drove before you. So when it's really bad, you're looking only for curbs first. Curbs are a pretty good sign of where the road actually is and where the road exists. And then sometimes, when it's really fresh powder, you go out and drive, you're literally hoping that you can still see the curbs. After that, if you're the first one on the road, you're just hoping you're not going to run into a curb. Like that's I've been in those conditions. I've definitely been in those conditions where it's like, I am just I'm the first one on this road. I'm just kind of going where there's not a tree or like a house or just hoping that I'm kind of going in the right direction. And I think the car at least could use GPS along with its vision to hopefully do as good of a job someday, or better, as a human.
Yeah, it'll be curious. Has anyone done autopilot in the snow? I'd like to see that.
Oh yeah, I have. Yeah, but it's mostly still it's snowing, but it still sees the lines on the road. Autopilot would go away as soon as the lines on the road are actually gone. Yeah. What were you gonna ask, Joe?
I don't know. We get snow here every once in a while. Actually, we haven't had snow here in Dallas in a few years now, but growing up we had snow, but not to the level of you don't know if you're even on the road anymore. So everything you're saying sounds like a nightmare to me. I just no thanks.
Yeah, it can be scary. Although those are kind of fun. Everyone's I think if people have, say, earthquakes in California, are always like, yeah, earthquakes, kind of fun, no big deal. And people that have hurricanes in Florida are like, yeah, hurricanes. We make hurricane cakes.
We have hurricane
tornadoes
parties
here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tornadoes. It's not a big deal. Just drives by and you see a tornado and you wave to it. Up here it's snow and tornadoes. I'm still terrified of tornadoes. Don't give me a tornado. But snow, yeah, big snow, blizzard like that, it's kind of fun.
Speaking of snow and places that snow, Colorado just passed a bill that is letting Rivian sell direct to customers.
Wow.
So this is
great.
big news because previously there was like a lot of states that is it still banned in Texas, Joe?
Yeah, and so I was actually just about to ask how common that is, because that's what I'm used to here, but I didn't know how many other states had that.
So I'll just give a quick context for people that are totally lost.
They quoted Sean.
Some states have been lobbied to pass this legislation by local auto dealers saying, hey, it's not fair if these automakers can sell direct to customers. You need to protect us with our industry and our jobs and whatever. And that's, I think, in my view, a totally fair argument to make. I don't agree with that argument, but I think it's a fair argument to be made. Then what happened is several states, Texas one, and Colorado, I guess, was another one here. I think Utah maybe changed theirs, and then it was what's the super conservative state in the Northeast? Is it New Hampshire?
Maine?
No, there's Vermont and the one next to Vermont.
New Hampshire, yeah.
New Hampshire, yeah. Because Vermont's hey, we're all hippy-dippy, and then Vermont's gun-toting, don't tread on me kind of thing. But anyways, maybe that's a simplification. And that's what I've been told by people from there, so that's not my me projecting. Anyways, so I think one of those states up there, and so they wouldn't let Tesla or other companies like them sell in those states. So typically what the companies that want to do that have to do is they have to become a dealer themselves. And so, excuse me, there's a kind of a case in Utah that's funny where Tesla went through all these steps of because it couldn't be you just the dealer setting up you the manufacturer setting up a dealer, had to be a separate company. So Tesla created a separate company and hired employees and set up their own dealer just to sell Teslas. And they were yeah, no, you're just, you're just going through the legal loopholes here to try to make this happen. So we're going to deny you anyways. Anyway, so there's a whole history and context here about like you can't sell direct to customers if you're a car maker. For pick your reason, whatever the argument may be. But now in Colorado, Rivian is able to do that because there's a new legislation here that is going to let customers purchase direct from them. So Rivian themselves don't have to set up a dealer in the state or anything like that. So apparently, Sean from All Things EV, who's a friend of, I think, all of ours, has a video on this, so you guys can go check that out. This is an article on electric here. But yeah, good news for people in Colorado and for startups that are trying to sell cars directly. God, doesn't that just look like a gorgeous SUV, man?
I think it's cool. It's grown on me so much.
I like the wheels.
It's an actual SUV.
Yeah.
It's
a good blend between, it's got a little bit of shock value with like the front grille on the front, but still blends to be a normal, just good-looking vehicle. I think it's a good place. They position themselves conservative yet like future. I really like where they came in with that with their vehicles.
And look, it's on snow.
Ooh. Hey, real quick, I want to segue to snow still because we're still talking about snow. But Sean in our Discord has a really good point, wondering if this whole thing will have automakers move to online changing laws because like. If you're to buy a car right now, there's definitely incentive. If you were a dealership, you'd be like, I wish someone could just get online and buy a car right now,
right.
And it might it might shift again some of those little things that we're not realizing that might make people realize some of the benefits of the 21st century, and able to play that out in their own businesses.
But how would they be able to go back and talk to their manager?
To get you a deal.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Let me
get that weather stripping for you. Let me go talk to my manager. I pulled some strings, $10 off. You're welcome.
Free blinker fluid replacements for the next 5 years.
I love the games that they get to play, like that, where they just literally walked out of the room, they went pee, got some popcorn for themselves, and like came back 5 minutes later and like, all right, here's the deal. I'm not supposed to tell you this.
He's got mustard in his mustache, and he's like, just talk to the manager. Serious conversation we just had.
Is the manager a hot dog? What the hell's going on? Yeah.
Oh, but speaking of cold climates, did you guys see that the Model Y, the heat pump is like a pretty big deal?
Yeah, talk to me about it, because that's what I was trying to get at that, but I don't know what I don't know, so let's hear it.
So in general, when a battery's cold, it performs a lot worse, right? And the way Teslas have produced heat for the battery packs to get them at a reasonable operating temperature in colder climates is to draw heat from the motors. But apparently, I don't know why that's not that efficient, but apparently it's not very efficient. I don't know if it adds resistance. I don't know if it just doesn't produce enough heat. But apparently, Tesla built in the Model Y a standalone heat pump. That's basically the opposite of like a condenser, for your air conditioner, and it's just literally a heat pump that heats up the battery packs and gets them up to an operating temperature. And supposedly it's supposed to be a really nice upgrade to create better longevity and better range and stuff in colder climates. And it's substantial sometimes. I mean, you can take a good 30%, maybe even 35, 40% hit when it's really cold. If it's below freezing, your EV traditionally will do very poorly. And seeing that the Model Y, as this stuff is mass adopted, you got to consider that still a large number of people live where it will go below freezing, and they still need to get to work. They still need to do their commutes. They still need to travel. And if you can reduce that, from 30% hit down to even 20, if you get it so it's only a 20% reduction in really bad conditions, that'd be a huge leap. So I'm curious to see what the actual effect is. But
it's funny because they put so much effort into cooling the battery, and now they're also putting effort into warming the batteries. I guess it's just clearly just keeping it in the right temperature range there.
Yep, there's an optimal temperature range.
Yeah, it already does that, right? But you're saying it's just going to do it in a more effective way.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I'll have to look because we've got, so it's cold in places in the country still, right? Is it?
Yeah, I would love to see. You should do a write up on that with all your data from Tesla Lab and stuff, and get a sense of, especially as Model Ys start coming online. See if we can see any differences when it's cold temperatures. See if there's a strong correlation, and see how big of a difference it actually makes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We've got a few Model Ys in the fleet already. I wonder if I can just pull that out right now and see. Yeah, we've got Model Ys there. We don't have a lot, I don't think.
You're looking in Tesla?
Yeah. We've got 615
Teslab.
events. Yeah, which, you know why it's named Tesla with a Z?
Because that's how it's supposed to be pronounced.
Because I'm penciling, not do whatever Elon says. Elon say Tesla, so Tesla.
What has happened to this podcast? Wow.
I don't know, but I like it.
He's like, I feed off of your mockery.
No, that has nothing to do with it, but it's that Apple denied the app because the name was the same as Tesla's app.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the team tried to come up with all these different things, and they were like, well, crap, let's just do it with the Z, I guess, and see what happens. And they did, and that's how it works. So you're like, this is so dumb. This is like.
Gotta put
Hey,
it
just
in.
real quick, did you hear about in China, I guess in Wuhan or wherever, where the kids were in quarantine and they were being assigned homework from school through this app, and they got out of doing the homework by giving the app 1-star reviews, enough to where it got taken out of the App Store.
Yes.
No way.
Oh, that is brilliant.
That's great.
Wow.
Oh.
How would
My
you
wife would
prevent?
disagree,
How would you
but I think
prevent
it's great.
cheating with online courses and stuff like that? Something.
So my wife's teacher, and like she's doing the distance learning thing now, and she's doing a lot of. She doesn't use Zoom; they use Google Hangouts. But she did a class yesterday, and it was. Here's what I don't get: was she was like, I don't know how many kids are going to show up, and I'm like, you can't. You take attendance with this.
Right.
I mean, isn't that like part of? So it seems very loosey goosey, but I guess we'll see if it works.
Lots of
She's
different.
kind of liking it now, to be honest. But
Well,
Man.
lots of different companies have different, and platforms have different ways of doing those things. Like I used to work in online education for colleges,
Right,
and there were all kinds of things for that. But you're right. I mean, me and my friends were having some beers one night. Like, okay, what if we just started a business where, okay, so you as a customer enroll in an online school, and then you pay this company to go to school for you. And then in the end, you get a degree, and you're like, hey, I got a degree. There would be no way for them to
Right. To enforce and yeah.
And now I'm a dentist.
Yeah. exactly. But there is, so just one bit of future interesting tech that I remember looking at in that space was a company out of Boston that, man, I forget what they're called, but what they were doing was looking at how you typed. So you would have to participate in live chats. And when you do that, you're going to be typing. And they would use, and it turns out, according to them,
Fingerprint?
yeah, that you kind of, how you type and delete and the order and the typos and all those things are pretty telling of who you are. And so it's
No
kind of like a
way.
fingerprint of it. So they could actually tell if it was the same person. And so we even, we were thinking about implementing this of where, like, when you get started, you need to, type out a thing real time. And we would disguise it as like a typing test or something like that. But really what we were doing was fingerprinting the user. So
that's
that way, if
interesting.
they had a person doing it later, we would be able to tell that they were cheating.
Wow. Well, someday I'll bet you'll have to just do like a bionic
Video.
or biometric.
Well, so
Authentication.
Tian K in Discord says that companies that do certifications require a webcam from behind you so they can see your screen and your desks.
Whoa.
Oh, there you go.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Imagine being like, well, what? I have to get another computer or something, like for people that are like, how do I get a webcam behind me? I mean, obviously you can plug
a
in like
camera back here.
yeah, that's nuts.
Well, I also heard that some people that are now using Zoom for for their work are pre-recording videos of themselves looking like they're paying attention, and then just
Yes.
looping that in.
oh,
This is the
that's
perfect
funny.
time for some deep fake technology.
Until someone calls them and they're like, hey, Jim, what's that report like? And they're just sitting there.
And
It's
then
just
suddenly
like-
his shirt changes.
That's awesome. This is totally kind of not at all on the same page, but I noticed that I set up a new computer And I noticed that one of the things that Mac is doing now, like when you need permissions to do things instead of typing in a password, there's always like, hey, you can, like on a MacBook, you can use your fingerprint, on your phone, you can use Face ID. But I hate like new computers, like new desktops still don't have like a thumbprint reader. There's no, touch bar. The thing that I noticed that they're doing now is like, hey, double click on your Apple Watch to authenticate it, which I thought was a cool way of doing it. So like, all of a sudden it'll be like, hey, type in your password or just use a boop boop on the Apple Watch, and I think that's a pretty cool.
And hey, then you have to buy something else from them, don't you?
Yeah. Well, Windows I know has that. It's not called Face ID, but it's Face ID thing. Where like to log in on a lot of Windows computers, you just pop it open, Face ID, boom, you're in.
Yeah.
And so I assume like mine, I use a fingerprint reader to log in on my computer.
Yeah.
Which has been around since for like 15 years, but it's been sucked forever, and now it's like less suck, but it's still not great. Well, so I was just looking here. We've got Model Y so far.
Oh yeah.
We've got 25 vehicles, so it's a very small
sample size.
23 vehicles, 84.12% efficiency average. Guess what the watt hours per mile are average right now?
Wait, what was the first part you said?
So in Tesla, we have 23 Model Ys, and the average efficiency is 84.12%. So the way we calculate efficiency is if the battery said you went 100 miles, we measure how far you actually went on like the odometer.
Right.
And did you get 100 miles or what did you get? So if the battery said you used 100 miles, now you went 84.
Right.
Essentially. But what is the average watt hours per mile, you think?
I'll bet because they're new cars and everyone's out there flooring them constantly, I'll bet it's like 340.
Keep going.
Higher? 380?
Getting closer.
400?
482.
I mean, small sample size in the first like week of deliveries, so it's got to be people just like, check out my new car.
Let me see what
that's
Model
insane.
3 is. Yeah.
And a lot of them are probably the performance with the 21s. Oh, that's something I wanted to...
are.
Oh, well, I'll bet that'll be pretty high in general anyway. Here's something I want. So I have on order, which I probably won't take delivery on for a little bit here, just since, like, who knows what the world's going to be like in a month. But I ordered the performance, but I don't want the 21-inch wheels because I really like, efficiency. But I like, there's 19-inch... the induction wheels, which get really good gas mile or range. There's 20-inch induction wheels that are black that look awesome, and then
those are they called induction?
There's still 21-inch induction, but they're not available for performance. The performance you can either get the 19 gray ones or the 21-inch black, and I want the 20-inch induction. I'm gonna see if you can do like off the menu.
But okay, are you getting the performance package though, or just
I don't want the
performance
performance
model?
package. Don't give me that junk.
Yeah.
I want it to go fast, but still road trip it,
Right. So why are you getting the performance model then? Just to go quicker?
To go fast.
Yeah. And so I have an immediate correction on the numbers I just gave you.
Okay.
I was looking at average watt hours per mile, which is always wacky because you're like a trip is like any driving trip. So you could drive like in for like at creep mode for 15 feet, and that's a trip.
Okay.
So the average is like, it includes the insanity of the distribution of the data set here. So Model 3 median watt hours per mile, overall for the whole fleet, which we have 12,000 Model 3s in the app, is 307 watt hours per mile.
Okay.
And the Model Y is 327.
Okay.
So that's actually really good for a much bigger car that I would assume that almost all of these are the performance model and people are just driving it like nuts right now, or maybe not right now, but the first few days you get it, you're going to drive like a madman. So
I'm curious to see if that comes down and how close they actually get. I think in like 2 weeks or so you should give us an update on that and do
I'm going to do a video on it for sure. We just need more data and people aren't driving right now, so kind of kills that whole thing.
Well, speaking of killing that whole thing,
let's talk about Starship.
There we go. Thank you. I did not have a segue, obviously. So, of course, if you guys, I think the best thing you can do at this point in time, if you want to keep up with Starship and see the development, again, Mary with NASA Spaceflight, she's Boca Chica gal at NASA Spaceflight, has been just doing the best job, and NASA Spaceflight team has been doing such an awesome job of putting together constantly just updates, a daily update of the builds, because you have to, in order to stay on top of this stuff now, it's literally every day. Every single day you have to see what they're doing, because it's unbelievable. So now we're seeing a new test stand and or stand, but also serial number 3 is basically stacked complete. This might actually be just I don't remember if we actually know what this is yet. I didn't have time to figure this out, but this might be the new actual stand and not just a test stand. But do we know, guys in Discord? But Elon last night was out at Boca Chica and they completed stacking serial number 3, and it's going to be ready to actually probably go out to by the time you're listening to this, there's a good chance it'll be making its way out to the stand to do pressure testing. After it does pressure testing and goes through that, they'll likely do static fires. And then it's sounding like if this thing's going to survive all that, it will likely start doing some hops. So this could start happening within a week, 2 weeks. We might start seeing some hops again from Starship, which makes me really sad that I'm going to have to miss it. But, so if you want your updates on this stuff as far as day to day, because it's just hard, I can't even keep track of it anymore. That's what I wanted to really talk about, is like, we're to the point where, last year Elon was saying at the Starship event, he's like, next year we're just going to be cranking these things out, like it's no big deal. And now they're literally building Starships, like, at this point once a month, and just rapidly increasing that. It's to the point where they're probably going to be rolling out a full-size Starship in 2 weeks.
Well, go ahead, Joe.
Oh no, I was wondering if you, I'm sure you don't have any special knowledge on this or anything, but like I wonder if they're gonna, they've stacked this up. Okay, so we had the Star Hopper, that was a little squatty R2D2 thing. Mm-hmm. So now and then they created the MK1, which is like, this is what it's gonna look like if it was banged together with,
pots and
rivets and stuff.
Yeah.
And then, so this has like the full stack going on, and I'm wondering if they're gonna actually like finish it out and have an actual like Starship looking thing when they do the hops, or is it just going to be almost like a giant grasshopper kind of deal?
My understanding and some of the speculation is that they're just going to do it iteratively. So serial number 3 likely will probably have landing legs, or does have landing legs, as we don't really know yet for sure. But it'll likely for sure be the one that starts doing engine fires and likely some hops, but it's still not clear whether or not it'll have any of the actual aero hardware on it. Not even sure if it'll have a nose cone on it, really, even though the nose cone's out. There's still a lot. At this point, they might just roll it out to the pad pretty much as is, press it up, do a static fire, and then maybe start hopping it. Because again, when you're hopping and doing these tests, like, they're pretty high risk. Why risk additional hardware when you don't need to?
Sure.
The hardware isn't necessary to do until they're doing the higher altitude tests, So it's happening. It's happening really fast.
Can't wait to see it.
Where are they gonna manufacture them? Kind of once they're done testing, they have like this is the design we're going with.
I think that's still my understanding is Boca Chica will probably always be a Starship hub for manufacturing and launching. I think it's going to be long term. But I think they're also planning to, once they kind of know how to build them and what it takes, Boca Chica is such a playground for them. There's lots of room. It's literally, they're building a factory around the rocket. And once they kind of have a good system set in place, kind of like how they built Gigafactory and as like an open playground type of thing too. Once you kind of know the system, and Elon talks about that all the time, like the machine that builds the machine and how manufacturing is 1,000 times harder than prototyping. So he's doing his thing where he's doing it out in an open field where they can do it however it makes sense to try to do it and solve that problem. Once they have that problem figured out, boop, you can pop it down, because there's still, we're assuming they're going to be building these on site in Florida too someday. But but
they won't be building it in Hawthorne.
Not in Hawthorne, but they did renew their lease for Starship production at Port of Los Angeles though. A little bit ago, like a month or two ago. They renewed their lease there. So maybe they'll have multiple factories, and if Starship really is, and here's the thing, you have to listen to Elon and Gwen when they say they're going to be building Starship faster, cheaper, and more frequently than they ever did Falcon 9. Believe it. Because realistically, the materials they're using, the raw materials, is actually, yes, there's more of it, but not that much. Like, you remember that the volume goes up by the cube of the actual like surface area square. So yeah, the rocket's huge, but the actual amount of metal isn't like, it doesn't scale up to Falcon 9, right? So does that make sense? So yes, it's a much bigger vehicle, but it's not substantially more, not that same amount more volume difference compared to the actual material. Does that make sense? But and also stainless steel is really cheap, even compared to the aluminum alloys they're using. So, yeah, I mean, we're just gonna start seeing once, and they're just gonna solve the problem once they know how to fly the thing. They're just
and then where is Raptor made then? Like what is Hawthorne for? I guess
Raptor will still be made in Hawthorne, and my guess is that'll always be the case. Is that things like for now, Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy, Merlin, Raptor will all be produced in Hawthorne. Anything that can be easily shipped on the road, like the engines, sure, keep doing it out of Hawthorne. Continually keep Hawthorne open for all those other things, but they're just cranking them out right now, and they're working on ramping that up. I believe we're starting to see into the 20s for their serial numbers for Raptors. So
and then the capsules are made there too, right?
Yep. For now, Dragon will will always be made in Hawthorne. Falcon 9, Falcon Heavy will always be made in Hawthorne. Merlin always in Hawthorne. But my guess would be, if they're really getting to the point where they're doing this stuff at the pace of like Boeing, making airplanes, if that's their goals, to make as many as there are airplanes and things like that, yeah, you're going to need a couple of these factories. You're going to need 3.
Yeah. And it'll need to be kind of mechanized more than this kind of bespoke nature they're doing it right now. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's still prototyping right now.
Absolutely. Hardcore prototyping and like fast, rapid, the type of stuff that I just absolutely love to see. Yeah, I'll tell you guys more about my upcoming video that I'm working on right now, but we'll talk about that at the end. So, yeah, really, really exciting to see this stuff come together. And just trying to stay on top of it is literally, there's multiple YouTube channels that's basically all they do anymore is just stay on top of Starship because it is that big of, and props to them. I mean, you got Marcus House and, there's I'm going to blank
Felix,
on like,
what about it?
Yeah, exactly. Felix, there's so many people that do an awesome job of the weekly updates or bi-weekly or stuff like that. Like awesome job to those channels too, because that is a grind on its own trying to stay on top of all this stuff. And of course, NASA Spaceflight has just been absolutely killing it. Yeah, Jack's editing and Mary putting it out every week. It's awesome. Every day.
Is NASA Spaceflight NASA?
No.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. I've wondered if they've wanted to rebrand at some point, because now we're getting to the point where it won't be NASA's. A lot of the stuff they cover has nothing to do with NASA directly, like Starship developing.
So you can just use the name?
Of course.
So I'm like NASA automaker. I'm gonna start a new company.
I mean, I don't.
Spaceships for Earth. Wait, so that was a Tesla thing.
Oh, so yeah.
NASA toothpaste.
So why don't they just make like change their name to spaceflight.com? No, I don't know.
Why don't they just? Let's do today's Why Don't They Just?
Oh, I don't have my audio queued, so here we go.
How about that for a second? When is your launch, Tim? Your launch is coming up, isn't it?
Yeah, we gotta wrap here in the next 10 minutes, so because I gotta live stream a launch today. So, do we have a Why Don't They Just this week, Joe?
We do, and it's a little different. It's a little different. So I kind of forgot to ask out there for one. So this is actually from a very old one. This is from January 23rd. This is when the world was a different place. But this is from Techero. Anyway, it says, why don't they just build a giant dam to close off San Francisco Bay? At its most narrow point, the opening's only about a mile, 1.6 kilometers wide. The Three Gorges actually is the right name there. Dam in China is 1.4 miles wide. This could act as an enormous water battery and hydroelectric dam, which because I know about San Francisco Bay, the currents are so strong because the tide like really rolls in fast in and out of the bay, so they probably could get a lot of energy out of that. Outside of the fact that it would be an eyesore, what do you guys think?
Well, San Francisco, who cares?
Hey. Well, I'll start off by saying you don't build dams. A dam is normally like you dam up a flow of water, a reservoir. You're damming up a river, to reserve that water, blah, blah, blah. I don't think you can really do that in a place where there's tides going in and out. This is the ocean. It's not a river. It's not like the mouth of the Mississippi or something. It's just a bay with a direct feed to the ocean. So there's, I think, tides that shift in and out, and there's really strong currents. So I don't think you'd want to do a dam there. I think you'd want to do underwater like hydro turbines, or something like that, or basically propellers under the. And that, why don't they just? I think that would be a phenomenal source of power potentially. But I don't know how. Someone would need to know how big are the tides and blah blah blah, and run a study of. Is it worth all the money to put those things there and all the infrastructure? It's just a matter of.
I think well, there's a couple things. I mean, not to mention shipping, which the Bay acts as like a huge hub for. So if you couldn't get boats through there, we wouldn't get iPhones, and that would be the absolute end of the world. But I think along those lines, the tidal energy thing, from what I've seen, which is mostly coming from the fully charged channel, just isn't super economical yet. The technology is not good enough for it to make total sense. This is the latest thing I've seen on that. But that could be a huge thing for the future, is the tidal energy. And you wouldn't really have to put that by there. You could literally drop those like 100 kilometers out in the ocean somewhere, because the wave energy, the tide, like it's still moving out there. So imagine if you could like drop a turbine in like the one of the massive currents that takes all of the heat and energy and minerals from Alaska down to San Diego or something like that. So there's probably a lot of options, I think, in that realm. But from what I understand, technology is just not good enough yet. Why don't they put up a dam? I don't know, wildlife and shipping would be my guess.
Yeah, but I think I'm pretty sure it's not really the right type of body of water and things for a dam anyway.
Right, like for example, dams are super bad for the environment, and so there's like this whole thing to get rid of dams. And so hydroelectric is great, but it like really messes with salmon migrations, for example, in the Pacific Northwest. And so besides the huge benefit of being able to develop technologies like the salmon cannon, which salmon swim into, and it shoots them out of the other side on the other side of the dam, which is just great to watch. Besides cool stuff like that, putting up a dam is a terrible thing for the environment. And it's not something you want to do.
I know that when they first dam, say, a valley or something like that, that creates a lot of methane because of all the plant life that gets decomposed down at the bottom, and methane comes out. But what I never knew if that was just like a one-time thing. Like, it might dump a lot of methane over the first couple of years or something, but probably doesn't much after that. But I could be wrong.
That sounds like a good video for Joe. Like, are dams terrible or are dams wonderful?
How terrible are they?
Yeah. There's a documentary on it called Damnation. And there's even these, it's really cool in that they show these artists that do these things where like one guy, he painted on a big dam, I think it was in the Pacific Northwest, he painted like a dotted line and a giant pair of scissors, like cutting the dam. And I'm talking like 50 feet, height, like it's super big, but like it's definitely not something you want to do because of all the damage it does to the kind of like ecosystem in the area. And imagine you're talking about like whales and stuff. You're not talking about just like some salmon here. You're talking about the ocean. Yeah. So
there's a lot of like whales that go into the bay and stuff. That'd be really sad to see them just like knocking at the gate, like my family's on the other side.
Well, and then that could wipe out some other, Joe, in your video about, was it Cudzo or something? It was about kudzu. It was like this plant that got introduced, whatever. Imagine if, hey, there is a natural predator that comes into the bay, which keeps this other thing in check, and now that can come in there, and now it just eats away, and now Facebook has to move their campus or something.
The ripple effects.
Yeah. So it's just a bad idea, I think, messing with the ecosystem, especially at that scale, when we could, I don't know, just put up more solar panels. It's like we have answers for this. It's not like we don't know how to do this.
That's fair. So what are you guys working on? Are you guys working on any new videos?
Should I go first?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Please.
The airships video is coming out Monday.
Ooh, sweet.
Recorded it yesterday. It might be a little bit long, but this was one of those topics that like somebody suggested it. I'm like, whatever, and then I start looking into it. I'm like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is super fascinating.
Yeah.
So
airships are like really cool. They're one of those retro future things that like I really wish were way more common. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of your take? Is like, why don't we have them type of thing, or like where are they today type of thing, or the history of them?
I talk more about the history of it. I do talk at the end about some modern airship technologies that are kind of still burgeoning, but there's a lot. Well, I won't spoil it too much, but there's some ideas in place to use them as cargo transport, specifically, especially for disaster areas where airplanes can't land and trucks can't get to. These can go and land wherever they want, and some of these newer technology models out there can carry up to 250 tons of cargo.
Whoa. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And they travel twice as fast as you could on the ground. So it's some interesting stuff.
That's awesome.
Drone, Amazon drone cargo.
Blimp.
Well, I kind of tease that as well. Like, what if Amazon had a dirigible, a blimp, not a blimp, but
is that
an
what
airship?
It's called?
Okay, well, here we go. So,
because in Spanish it's dirigible, which is if you were to spell it, it's the same.
Yeah. So okay, there's hot air balloons. All of them are lighter than air. So lighter than air travel, LTA. So hot air balloons, blimps, zeppelins, dirigibles, those are all lighter than air. Dirigibles are blimps or zeppelins, but that are basically, they're powered by propellers. They have propellers that move it along. Hot air balloons just go up and down.
Yeah.
And between blimps and zeppelins, blimps they're non-rigid. So like when they deflate, they just down to the ground, whereas a zeppelin or a rigid airship has a metal frame it maintains its shape.
Okay, so, I never realized.
Like where the Model 3
there you go.
is
It's
made.
all in the video.
Sweet. I'm excited for that. What about you, Ben?
Well,
how many more Model Y videos do you have?
I think I'm done with Model Y videos until I get my own. I don't know. It seems like the wrong time to be talking about this stuff.
It's awkward.
Yeah, like my last video, I had to have that special intro there, and it's just like, and it's like not doing super good. And I'm like, no one wants to hear about this right now. Like this isn't pertinent. So I've had a video I've been kind of working on for a while, and it seems like more the right time. And so I don't know what the title is going to be yet, but it's about those hydro panels I have on my house. And so to context real quick, I have these solar panel-like things on my roof that generate water from air. And we've been drinking the water now for a few months, and we just generate our own, just about 2 gallons of pure drinking water a day from them. They're entirely self-powered. It's kind of a pretty cool piece of tech, and it's in that sustainability category. It does save you money over the long run. And so I thought now would just be a good time to talk about that, especially given the current situation in the world. Like, access to fresh, clean drinking water is actually something that, if you look at the store shelves at Costco, the water is like restricted and those kind of things. So, which, by the way, in doing the research for it, more than 30 million people in the country do not have access to clean drinking water. That's 10% of the population in the richest country in the world.
That is so weird.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
That is. That's insane.
And like the Flint, Michigan crisis, the Flint, Michigan water crisis is not over. It's still going on. That was
insane.
2014 when that first happened.
That's really
2014,
sad.
like that. It seems like forever ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And probably
nuts.
20% of the people who have access to clean water drink nothing but sodas all day.
Seriously.
Yeah, especially if you live in Olney. No, so anyway, so I talk about why a tech like this is important, what my experience has been with this one, and then I break down the costs of, like, if you wanted to, say, buy gallons of water at the store or buy bottled water as a replacement for this, what the cost would be there versus this. It turns out it does save you a lot of money. It is good for the environment. It's good for you. So it's one of those things, like, if there are some negatives and downsides to it, but those are pretty minimal compared to the upsides. So pretty cool. And so hopefully right now is the right time to be talking about that stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying to crank out a little bit quicker video, and as always, it's turning into a little longer than I thought.
This one will only be 2 months.
This one will only be a 2-month research rabbit hole. No, hopefully, I don't want to put a timeline on it, but hopefully, like, relatively soon. But I decided it's time to relook at SLS versus Starship, and kind of have,
because you went off last week, so
that triggered it.
we got a rant coming.
It's gonna be, should NASA cancel SLS and invest in Starship? And I'm not going to spoil it yet, but I will say my opinion has changed in the last year. But I'm not done scripting yet, and the conclusion might actually surprise you. My conclusion might actually surprise you. So we'll leave it at that. Even if you know my conclusion from a week ago or from prior to that, my overall conclusion still might surprise you.
Yeah.
Because it's changing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Well, we got to say real quick a little thanks and a goodbye to our Discord channel for hanging out with us. It's fun that I know that we're all kind of looking for community, so it's fun seeing more and more people listening in live each week. So hi and bye again.
And I actually really like, because I've got Discord up right here, I'm kind of seeing what they're posting, and sometimes they correct us, and sometimes they add things to the conversation, and sometimes it's just kind of fun to watch them argue with each other.
Yeah, and almost like real-time feedback about the things we're talking about, like whether or not we're totally wrong.
Right.
So that's always a good thing. So
Yeah, we need fact checkers, all we can get.
absolutely. Well,
Cool.
guys, stay safe out there, everyone.
Yep.
Work on something that you maybe didn't have time for before, and now's a good time to play around and do something creative. I don't know.
Start that
Just watch
YouTube
the
channel.
Yeah, so watch YouTube.
Yeah. Well,
Cool.
guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep. We'll see you guys in
Our ludicrous
Ludicrous
future.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. If you like what we do and you want to kind of help get it out there, you can give us a nice review on any of your podcast streaming platforms, whichever one you use. That kind of helps get it out there. Also, we do have a Patreon set up, so you can join us there at patreon.com/ourludicrousfuture. You can get your name in the credits, meet a whole other group of like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. We do appreciate it. We'll see you there. Thanks.